Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Sports Mo's Football Shorts. I'm Barney Corkhill. I'm here with our football editor Matt Law, and we're here to talk about game week 32 of the Premier League season. There are the FA Cup semi-finals this weekend, of course, so this game week, plus a few extras, are spread over the next week or so. Friday to Thursday, we'll be covering games in this. And there's actually 10, maybe even 11 days, I think, of consecutive Premier League football, which is great for us football fans. We'll be looking ahead to Thursday with this one starting tonight. Friday night with Everton versus Tottenham Hotspur. It's a big game between two teams pretty much on the outside now of the top four battle, when it's verging on must-win territory really now. 6 points is the gap to the top four for Tottenham, 7 points for Everton, which isn't insurmountable, but obviously we're running out of games this season now, so it's a big game for both teams. Matt, how do you see it going?
Yeah, it's a really big game, isn't it? As you say, two sides that will fancy their, potentially in the top four race if they manage to pick up a win here. Probably saying must win for both sides, but it's a really interesting game, isn't it? I was looking at the team news obviously for this game. Obviously Calvert-Lewin's still out, isn't he, for Everton? Looks like they've got a few more out as well. Obviously Jordan Pickford looks like he's going to be okay. Tottenham's injury situation is still Ben Davies, Doherty out, but apart from that, pretty good. So you think Mourinho from the Manchester United game, because they were disappointing, weren't they? Tottenham against Manchester United started quite well. Were fortunate with the goal that got disallowed, in my opinion. Obviously took the lead, but Tottenham they really need a win. Don't got some winnable games coming up. Obviously the EFL Cup final as well, but same with Everton. Really, it's been a little while now, isn't it? 4 games without a win. Only picked up 2 points from the last 4 Premier League games, and just not playing well at the moment. Calvert-Lewin's obviously, as I say, is a big miss. Delph, Decore, Mina's out for a while now, so they need to be chopping changes, but they've got players like Allen will come back in. You fancy Rodriguez will play up front, maybe again with Richarlison, but yeah, they struggled last time out, didn't they, against Brighton, a goalless draw before that, drew a Palace. So really, really big game between two sides that desperately need the points, but I'm just struggling to separate them, to be honest. It was 1-1 when they last met at Goodison Park in the Premier League, end of 2019, and I can see 1-1 again here. Two sides that I say will be desperate not to lose, but I think they're pretty similar in quality overall. And I Tottenham have got some world class full. 1-1 here.
Yeah, I've actually got the same written down, but I thought you might go for 1-0, so I'm going to change it at the last second to 2-1 Tottenham. I think
okay.
You're right. They're two teams in pretty bad form at the moment. I think Tottenham have got those game winners that Everton don't have, certainly at the moment. Calvert-Lewin out, as you mentioned, but with Kane and Son, they've always got a chance to nick those wins. And they'll be demanding a response to that. Yeah, as you say, the Man United game was disappointing. Might as well get the VAR rant out early, because that was an absolute disgrace of a decision that got disallowed, that Man United goal, and just one of many that weekend, wasn't it? There was the Liverpool one, the Wolves one, the West Brom one, which was probably the most baffling one yet in VAR, and a long history of baffling VAR decisions. But it's just a joke, isn't it? I mean, I can't believe that Son one got disallowed. But yeah, Tottenham, eventually went on to lose the game anyway. And there's the spat between Mourinho and Solskjaer. Pogba's come out now and had a dig at Mourinho as well. The pressure's certainly growing on him, and I think it is following similar patterns every club he goes to now. And Tottenham, is not too dissimilar now. He's publicly called his players into question a couple of times this season, and he just questioned whether he's obviously a man with great experience. He's won so many trophies. You just question, whether his man management style has changed, whether football's changed, because it used to be at Chelsea, at Inter Milan. You remember the players absolutely adored him, absolutely loved him. Marco Materazzi in absolute tears when he left Inter Milan. Those images. But just now he doesn't seem to have the same relationship. He seems to alienate a lot of people, and it just doesn't seem to be working for Tottenham at the moment. They've obviously got the EFL Cup at the end of this month, the EFL Cup final. But if they go and lose this game against Everton, then that EFL Cup final is probably their season, because if you end the season trophyless and that far outside the top four, it's a really bad season. Obviously already out of the Europa League. So big game for Tottenham, this one. Initially I did have it down as 1-1. I thought it did scream out 1-0, but if I was to back either side to win, I was going to go Tottenham. So yeah, I'll go for 2-1 Tottenham in this one. There's 2 games on Saturday in the Premier League, at least. Newcastle versus West Ham is one of them. West Ham up in 4th after that thrilling 3-2 victory against Leicester, the 3rd game in a row. They've gone 3 goals up. They lost that 3-goal lead against Arsenal, then conceded twice against Wolves, then conceded twice against Leicester. So it's a pretty dangerous lead for them. But they hung on in those last 2 games to pick up back-to-back victories and remain in the top 4. Now only 1 point away from Leicester. So Leicester very much in that battle. Newcastle, meanwhile, picked up a huge win against Burnley, opened the gap to 6 points to the relegation zone. But absolutely priceless victory that could be, especially with their run coming up. So how do you see this one going?
Like you say, West Ham, there's been some dangerous leads they've had recently, managed to hold on, and they're absolutely flying. You think that they win this game, they go third, is just incredible to be sitting third in the Premier League with games. They go to Chelsea, don't they? Next, what a big game that is. Will be next Saturday, I think it is, next Saturday evening. So that'd be a huge game. Moyes has had his press conference this morning. Obviously, Rice and Antonio are still out. Ogbonna, players like that. Aaron Cresswell, slight chance of maybe being available. I think he picked up a bit of a thigh problem, didn't he, against Leicester? If not, you fancy it'll be Balbuena at the back, back 3, probably Bowen, Lingard, and Fornals going forward again for West Ham. Newcastle, will St. Maximin and Wilson come back in because they've both returned from injuries, and they're both off the bench last time out. Great win for Newcastle, wasn't it, against Burnley? Great goal from St. Maximin. St. Maximin, Wilson are their 2 best players. Along with probably I'll put Shelby and Almiron up there, but fantastic. Obviously, Lascelles is out, isn't he? Got a foot problem, which is a problem. But apart from that, I mean, the players they've got going forward, the quality much better. And for all the criticism they've had recently, they haven't often get beat. I think one of their last 6 in the league they've lost, which is pretty good. I know too many draws, but they're sitting in a position in the table now where it's not huge pressure. I mean, I know they're still not out of danger, but they're sitting, 6 points above the bottom 3 with a game in hand. So that's a nice gap to have. A lot of pressure on Fulham. West Ham, this was very tough. I almost went a draw, and if West Ham had a full complement, I would go West Ham. I have actually still gone West Ham. I just think they're rolling along really nicely. They're flying at the moment. They're scoring goals. If they can just keep it a little bit tighter, and Newcastle are getting their good players back, but they've still been a poor team this season. And I just think West Ham, there's just something happening there at the moment. They're banging with a chance of the top 4. I'm not sure they'll get there. Maybe they might just miss out, but if they win here, then go and beat Chelsea or go and pick up a point against Chelsea. That would be absolutely huge for West Ham. So just West Ham here, really tight game, but 2-1.
2-1. I've got 3-1. I think, the amount West Ham are scoring at the moment, 3. I know this run of 3 goals in every game can't continue too much longer. And again, I was pretty close for them 2-1 for that reason mainly, but they're scoring for fun. They're playing good football. They've got these players to put the ball in the back of the net, even without, Mikel Antonio in the side, who you'd say was their main striker. But Jarrod Bowen's come in for him and done really well. Lingard and Bowen playing almost pretty much as 2 centre forwards at the moment, and both in really good form. And the whole team, they'll be absolutely flying after that to have beaten Leicester that comfortably. I know Leicester are a lot off colour, but Leicester have been so impressive this season. It was a really, really impressive result, that one. And as I say, their scoring run recently, even holding on, obviously, David Moyes won't be happy that they've conceded those 2 goals and threatened, another 3-goal collapse in the last 2 games. So we want to keep things tight at the back when they do go 3 goals up. But the fact they're going 3 goals up, and the fact they're hanging on actually in those last 2 games also shows a bit of resolve, which you haven't always associated with West Ham in recent seasons. For Newcastle, I think that last game, you just saw St. Maximin's benefit. I think it was 2 minutes after he came on, he assisted the equaliser, and then 5 minutes after that, Godin scored a really good winner. He's huge for them, and having him and Wilson back will be huge. But they haven't been out for the entire season, both of them. They've missed a large chunk, but they haven't exactly been too good with those 2 teams also in the team when they have been fit. So you can just see West Ham. It's hard to back against them at the moment. They're just on a great run of form. Obviously, when it comes to the real business end of the season, there'll be tougher games than this coming up. We'll find out what they're made of and if they can hang on to that top 4 spot. But they're in great shape at the moment. And I'm backing them to win this one 3-1. The second game on Saturday is 8:15 kickoff as Wolves versus Sheffield United. Sheffield United edging ever closer to that confirmed relegation. We've known it for a long time. What is it now? 18 points to safety with 7 games remaining. 21 points left to fight for. So it's very close to being confirmed now. They were lost 3-0 at home to Arsenal last time. Arsenal played well in that, but Sheffield United will be disappointed to have shipped 3 goals without reply. It's not something they did too often under Chris Wilder. Wolves picked up a big win. If there was any doubt about their survival hopes, it's probably gone now after that big win against Fulham last time out. How do you see this one going, Matt?
Yeah, it's a tight one, isn't it? Probably not one, I don't think it's going to be a particularly classic game, to be honest. Wolves, Sheffield United, you just think it's going to be maybe a poor game. I think it'll be tight. Wolves, Wolves, as you say, picking up a huge win over Fulham, but they're fortunate, Wolves, that they are where they are and not battered in, because the players they got out at the moment, they're just losing players, aren't they? I think Neves is out now, isn't he? Coronavirus. Pedro Neto, really big blow for him. He picked up a serious knee injury, isn't he? I think he's out of the Euros, isn't he now? Which is devastating for him. He's such a good player this season. Obviously, the players they're wishing, Willy Bolly's had coronavirus. Jimenez obviously still out, and yeah, it's been a very, very tough season for Wolves, isn't it? Very not, they finished seventh twice, didn't they, when they came up, and now they're just. I mean, they're not going to. They're 6 points behind Villa, so they may be the best of the rest at the moment in terms of the top 11. That top 11 might stay in place. If Wolves was to finish 12th, it wouldn't be disastrous, but not. They'll be keen to obviously build next season. Sheffield United, similar story really. The injuries they've had, absentees. Looks like John Fleck might be okay this weekend. Obviously, a boost for them, but Barney's now out for the season as the. A few O'Connor obviously out, Sharp's out for the season, so they are very much looking ahead to next season now. And yeah, I don't think this is going to be a particularly classic game we're going to look back on. I might be wrong, but expecting a tight game. But I just think Wolves will get there in the end. Sheffield United lost their last 5 in all competitions, last 4 in the league, struggling for goals, as you say. Last time out against Arsenal were good, but poor from Sheffield United, and they're going down without a fight at the moment, which is disappointing. But yeah, 1-0 Wolves here.
Yeah, I thought you might go for that. Again, I was very close to going the same, but I feel like I've gone 1-0 in every Sheffield United game this season because it's such a common scoreline. So I have just gone for 2-0 to Wolves in that. But yeah, for the same reasons, really. It's just, for Wolves, this is the easiest game of the season on paper. Sheffield United already down, no real chance of survival. You're at home against bottom of the league. And even though Wolves haven't been that impressive, if they don't win this one, it'll still be a huge disappointment, and they might still have one eye maybe on a top half finish if they can end the season strongly. Which, as you say, even if they finish 12th, it's not the end of the world. I mean, it's 2 back-to-back 7th place finishes were really good, and they deserved those. They played well in those seasons. But let's not forget, this is only their 3rd season back in the Premier League, so to be finishing 12th is perfectly acceptable. It's been a little bit of an underwhelming season for them, but that's because I think they set the expectation so high with those 2 first seasons in the Premier League, and we know how good they can be. But yeah, pretty much the same as you in this one. I've just backed 2-0 to Wolves in this one, but we're both backing Wolves to win to 0 in that one. Also, 2 games on Sunday, starting with a London derby between Arsenal and Fulham. Fulham, I mean, not too long ago, they were looking good bets to escape danger on a really good run of form, but then 4 defeats in a row. They'd be so disappointing. They lost all that momentum, really. Newcastle's win last weekend means they're now 6 points from safety, and it's looking like a big task again for Fulham to get out of danger, especially they've got Arsenal and Chelsea in their next 2. Still got Manchester United to play this season. It's an increasingly big ask. They need to stop this run of defeats soon, and maybe their run of decent form, improved form, came just a little bit too early, because if they ended the season in that sort of form, that momentum might have carried on towards the very end of the campaign, and they might just have escaped. But I mean, they'll know that it's not over yet. 6 points is by no means insurmountable, but they have played a game more than the teams around them in the table as well. So time is really running out for them. And as I say, there's next 2 are really difficult games. If they get anything out of those 2, away to Arsenal, away to Chelsea, they're doing well. Obviously, Arsenal have been pretty disappointing throughout the season so far, but their last 2 games have been much better. 3-0 away to Sheffield United, good performance, good goals in that one, and then really impressive in midweek, weren't they, in Europa League against Slavia Prague. We mentioned last week how dangerous Slavia Prague were. Maybe a lot of Arsenal fans probably underestimated them going into the first leg, but to win 4-0, Slavia Prague had a great home record before that. They'd knocked out Leicester, they'd knocked out Rangers. So yeah, to win 4-0 in the Czech Republic, huge result for them, and keeps their season alive, really, going into Europa League semi-finals. Europa League is probably the only measure of success they can achieve towards the end of this season. So absolutely huge for them to get through that, and to do it in style will raise hopes that that they are heading in the right direction. As we've said many times, it's been a poor season for them, but then there are glimmers of the green shoots of recovery with the youngsters. Bukayo Saka, Emil Smith-Rowe really shone this season, whereas other players not necessarily have. More senior players So yeah, those two big results for Arsenal. I can see them maintaining that form. I think if this was a month or so ago, I'd probably back Fulham to get something out of this game. But Fulham just seem to have lost their way a little bit at the worst possible time. And it's going to be a hard rut to get out of those 4 defeats in a row. As I say, I've just gone for Arsenal to win this one 2-0.
2-0, yeah. I've also gone Arsenal here 2-1. Yeah, the Fulham. I mean, the Fulham, when they beat Liverpool, didn't they? Then they lost to City at home, and you thought it wasn't. It was always about the next game after that. And the Leeds defeat was a big one for Fulham. Then losing at Villa, and then the Wolves one last time out. To get hit by that late goal was just devastating. And you do feel like, Scott Parker's he is very. What word I want to use? Not emotional, but he's very. You can tell he's very sort of his interviews. He's always. There's obviously a lot of tough words that have been said in the dressing room. He's obviously trying to raise the players, and it's looking difficult now. Newcastle's decent form, as in not getting beat every week. Newcastle have been a little bit better recently. That's obviously not helped, and it could be if Newcastle were to go and beat West Ham, and then they've got a game in hand, Newcastle, haven't they? Fulham go lose this, and as you say, Fulham's next one, Chelsea. It's looking very difficult. I still hope they get there. As I said a lot of times, I do like Fulham, and I want them to stay up, but it all depends on these next couple of games. If they get beaten both, you probably have to wave goodbye. It'd be very difficult to see. It's just Arsenal. I still think there's a lot of work to do there, but in absolute fairness, the last 2 results have been excellent. Sheffield United, as we said earlier, were poor, but Slavia Prague, a lot of questions, a lot of pressure on the team going into that one, and they just blew Slavia Prague away, didn't they? Lacazette's been pretty good recently. Obviously, speculation surrounding his future. As you say, Saka's, for me, I've said it for you, I think Saka's their best player by an absolute. And if he doesn't go to the Euros, I don't think he will, to be honest, but I'd be flabbergasted if he's not good enough to get in the England squad. I just think he's excellent. I know he's had his injury problems recently, but yeah, excellent player. As you say, Arsenal Europa League, it could be an all-English final, couldn't it? What an occasion that would be. Arsenal, Manchester United, obviously they have to get past Villarreal, Manchester United to get past Roma, but if Arsenal was to finish, they're only 4 points behind Tottenham in the league now. It can all change. If they finish top 7 and win the Europa League, it wouldn't be devastating for Arsenal, but it could go the other way if they were to finish 11th and lose the Europa League, maybe semi-final. Then it would be an awful season. So very, very fine lines for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. But yeah, nice game for them. As you say, Fulham had their wins taking out their sails. So yeah, 2-1 Arsenal here.
2-1 to Arsenal for Matt in that one. Okay, you mentioned Manchester United in that. They're in action at 4 p.m. on Sunday against Burnley at home. Yeah, as you alluded to there, Man United in midweek got through with minimum fuss in the Europa League. Another 2-0 win against Granada to make it 4-0 on aggregate. Beat Tottenham in their last Premier League game 3-1, as we mentioned earlier. They come from behind, another come from behind win away from home. This one against Burnley. Burnley obviously down in 16th in the table, 7 points from safety, but that defeat against Newcastle, we'll just have them looking over their shoulders a little bit more than they perhaps were heading into that one. Really disappointing one against one of the teams in and around them in the table. How do you see this one going, Matt?
Yeah, really disappointing, wasn't it, for Burnley? I thought they'd get there, they took the lead in that game, didn't they? I thought they'd have enough to maybe edge out a win there, but it wasn't to be. And as you say, they're not that comfortable. I mean, Fulham go win. I was mentioning if Fulham lose, win this weekend, Burnley lose. It's a lot of ifs and buts, and there's still, I know we are latter stages of the season, but there's still a lot of points to play for. It's not 35 games in with 31, 32, sometimes 30. I think Villa have played 30, haven't they? So Manchester United, as you mentioned, excellent win against Tottenham, Premier League. I thought the second half was as good as I've seen for some time now for Manchester United. Obviously, first half, unfortunate not to take the league, then conceded. But the second half performance, was just fantastic. Greenwood coming off the bench to make a big contribution. Cavani was excellent. Against Granada, very, very comfortable game. You won't probably see a more comfortable European quarterfinal than the second leg. Pogba came off at half time because he picked up a booking. Cavani, great goal, own goal late on as well that sealed the points, I should say, the spot in the semi-final. So yeah, Manchester United sitting very comfortably, aren't they, now in the top 4? Maybe secured, not secured second, but I mean the gap now 7 points to third place Leicester. You'd fancy that they are securing second and win the Europa League would be a really, really good season for United. Still second and losing the Europa League, it'd still be a mark of progress, but as we know, they want to win trophies. And it'd be interesting to see what Solskjaer does for this game. Team selection, interesting. Got a lot of players back now. Obviously, Martial is still injured in terms of going forward, but Rashford has had a little bit of a problem recently. He wasn't involved on Thursday, but he's there in and around. Greenwood's in good form. Pogba's back and playing well. Cavani's playing well. A lot of options. Obviously, Maguire and Shaw didn't play Thursday because of suspension, so you fancy they'll come back in. But the pressure's not particularly on Manchester United. It's not massively on Burnley, but they are, they do still need points, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens. United play Leeds away, then they play Roma first leg, Europa League, and then Liverpool at home. Bigger game for Liverpool, probably, if we're honest, around that stage. Obviously, Liverpool fighting to get into the top four. But yeah, I think this will be quite comfortable for United. As we know, Burnley can be resolute, and they've arguably got more to play for. But Burnley won at Old Trafford, didn't they, last January? 2-0 win, a very, very surprise result. But their overall Premier League record against United is really poor. I think they've only won twice since 2009 in the Premier League against United. So, yeah, I think it'll be a relatively comfortable 2-0 home win.
I've got 1-0. I think United should edge it. These are always pretty, bitty and tough games, though. I think, especially for United, have had that quite a few times at home this season in particular. Burnley's away record is actually pretty good. They've won at Liverpool this season. They've won at Arsenal, 1-0 victories in both of them. They've alternated between wins and defeats away from home in so far this calendar year, really. All this calendar year, they've alternated between wins and defeats away from home, and it'll be their turn for a win in this one if that pattern was to continue. But yeah, I think United, looking ahead to those next 4 games you mentioned, they're absolutely huge games. And while there is pressure taken off the league games because of their position, they're pretty comfortable. You'd think they've wrapped up Champions League football at the very least now, probably even second place, as you mentioned. But Leeds and Liverpool are probably two of their 3 biggest rivals. So they'll be going. Those are huge matches for them, nonetheless, regardless of their league position. And obviously, as you mentioned, the Europa League, the 2 legs against Roma are big, and they've still got Leicester, top 4 rival, to come this season. So it's a big end to the season for Manchester United, and this is arguably the game with least on it heading into the next few weeks. But you'd still back them even after Europe in midweek. You'd still back them to have enough to get the job done against Burnley. I don't think Burnley will make it too easy. As I say, the away form is actually better than you might expect for not just a team like Burnley, but a team in that position in the table as well. But yeah, I do expect United to have just about enough to get the job done. So I'm going 1-0 United in that one. On Monday night, there is Leeds versus Liverpool. This is obviously in the reverse fixture. It was a really entertaining game. First game of the season, 4-3 win for Liverpool. Liverpool will need to bounce back from a really disappointing Champions League exit in midweek. A goalless draw against Real Madrid. Liverpool, I think, played pretty well in that game. Just it was very frustrating, not taking the chances. And in some ways, you prefer that they don't play well and don't create the chances. It's just even more frustrating when you've got those chances, you make the chances and you don't take them. Real Madrid did what they needed to do, to be fair to them, and it was always going to be difficult to overturn that first leg advantage. But Liverpool, the chances were there. Having said that, the weekend before that, massive return to winning ways against Aston Villa, late goal to win that one, and that was huge for their top 4 hopes. They're now up in 6th, 3 points off West Ham in 4th. They'll be fancying their chances if their form has now turned around. The Real Madrid game suggests it hasn't completely, because the problems, even when Liverpool have been losing these games since the turn of the year, hasn't necessarily that their build-up play and their general play hasn't been bad, because on many occasions they've actually dominated those games. They just haven't been able to put the ball in the back of the net, which it's a baffling problem they're having. But it plagued them again in midweek. Looked like doing so against Aston Villa. They dominated that first half and then go full behind against Ollie Watkins. Is the sort of game we've seen many times before this season. Liverpool dominating, can't finish their chances, and then go and concede one from one chance at the other end. Fortunately, it didn't come back to bite Liverpool that time. The offside VAR didn't come back to bite Liverpool. I think VAR actually, there'll be a lot more criticism for it if any of those ridiculous decisions last weekend actually went on and cost the side. I think everyone who had a decision go against them went on to win the game, so the effects of them were lessened a little bit. But Liverpool turned that around, and as I say, a big return to winning ways. They've actually been pretty good away from home as well recently. So I'm backing them to get the win, but you've got to give word to Leeds. Obviously, three wins in a row now. That last one against Manchester City, huge victory. Stuart Dallas's late winner. But no one really expected that. Man City have just been in such good form. I think they've won all but one of their last 20-something games, haven't they, Man City? And that was against Man United. So for Leeds to go to the Etihad and pull that victory off, was absolutely massive for them. Obviously, there's not too much to fight for in terms of tangible goals for the rest of the season. For Leeds, they're not going to reach Europe. They're obviously in no danger of getting relegated. They'll just want to finish as high as possible. But yeah, so won 3 games in a row for a team which has been so inconsistent this season is certainly a mark of progress. And to go beat champions-elect Man City at the Etihad Stadium, huge, and will give them huge confidence that they can get something out of this game. And it wouldn't be a huge surprise if they do go and get something out of this game. I just think Liverpool have got a lot to fight for. They're not going to be much change like Man City were. And I know Man City's second string side is still a very good side, but Liverpool are, Premier League position is now all they've got left to fight for this season. So every game really, until they get back into that top 4, if they do get back into that top 4, is a must win. Can't really afford to drop points in this run-in with so many teams in and around also pushing for that top 4. But yeah, I mean, I don't know whether to go for a more ambitious scoreline in this one. I think I will just go for it. I'll go for 3-2 Liverpool. I did have it down as 2-1 Liverpool, but I'll go 3-2. I can see some goals in this one.
Yeah, you do absolutely love a third. To be fair, there's been some 3-2s around recently in the Premier League, but yeah, I've gone probably a different thought process, to be honest. I've actually gone a draw here. I've gone 1-1. Leeds is form. I mean, you say Leeds have not got that much to fight for. They're only 4 points off Tottenham in 7th at the moment. Incredible form. Obviously, I know they're not going to finish, I don't think, in the potential European spot, but top 10 for Leeds this season would be incredible. They've won 14 Premier League games. It's incredible, really. Same as Everton, same as Tottenham, only one fewer than Liverpool and Chelsea. It's just an incredible season for I know you talk about Leeds up there. Obviously, they've been down for a while, but they are still a massive club, aren't they, Leeds? They're a Premier League club that they've been obviously had some difficult years in the lower leagues, in League One as well, but really good. And their form recently, as you say, 3 wins in a row, it's just been so impressive. The win over City, there's probably not another side in the Premier League that would have gone after City, at 1-1. They'd have probably, set back and hope for a point. But Leeds were really going after City late on and got their reward in the end with a couple of goals from Stuart Dallas and, really good performances. Bamford was good. Rafinha's been, obviously Bamford come off at half time, but I thought the way he worked in the first half, obviously Rafinha's been really good this season. Liverpool, I mean, the Real Madrid game, I do agree with you. I thought that Liverpool were good. Another day, then they maybe win that 2-0, get what they need. But the win over Villa was huge, wasn't it? Last time out, it didn't look like it was going to be the case. And Alexander-Arnold with a really good finish late on, in fairness, and keeps them banging the race. But I mean, the fact that Chelsea play FA Cup, don't they? And then they play, I think Chelsea Tuesday night, Tuesday against Brighton.
Yeah.
West Ham play, obviously, if West Ham win, that's more pressure on Liverpool. If West Ham were to drop points, so Liverpool go and win, and then obviously Chelsea don't play till Tuesday, it does put Liverpool in a good position. And I'm still not sure about that. I think Leicester are big in trouble now. I mean, I've been guilty of saying Leicester, I think they might be okay, but the defeat to West Ham, they've obviously got issues behind the scenes. Vardy's not firing at the moment. I'd be concerned if I was Leicester. Maybe there's 2 places up for grabs, not just one, which we thought it might be. And, maybe it might be Liverpool and Chelsea or Liverpool West Ham. And whoever misses out, though, will be absolutely devastated. But I just think it'll be a draw here. Leeds very, very tough to beat at the moment. Really good form, good confidence, playing with a lot of freedom. And Liverpool, as you say, still the Real Madrid game showed they're still not quite there in terms of getting over their problems. So, tight 1-1 here.
Yeah, I think there's definitely 2 places up for grabs after that result. I think if Leicester beat West Ham last weekend, then maybe not. But yeah, certainly now there's 2 places up for grabs. And yeah, you mentioned if Newcastle go beat West Ham, then Liverpool will win against Leeds, would lift them into the top 4. So yeah, fascinating top 4 race to come. And you mentioned Chelsea, they're obviously still very much in that top 4 race. They are in action on Tuesday night, obviously in FA Cup semi-final action against Man City on Saturday, but in the Premier League, they're in action at home to Brighton on Tuesday. So we're filming this obviously before the FA Cup semi-final. So while we're speaking, the last outing for Chelsea was that home defeat against Porto, but still enough to see them into the Champions League semi-finals. Which is a huge achievement, really. Thomas Tuchel, obviously, still relatively new in through the door, but to get to the Champions League semi-finals for any manager is a huge achievement. If they can, potentially even go on and win the Champions League, big ask against Real Madrid to get through, even to the final. But they're in the mix for sure. If any team in the semi-final has a chance, obviously, of going on and lifting the trophy and finishing the top four as well, it's a magnificent season for Chelsea. Obviously, Champions League victory is something you'll never forget. You'll savor for years. It's something the club's only ever done once before. So that is now, within touching distance really for them. So that'll be a huge goal for them. And FA Cup, they could be out of it by the time this game kicks off. But they could also be in the final. So still lots to fight for on 3 different fronts for Chelsea this season. Going into this Brighton game, 4 winners against Crystal Palace in their last league game. Brighton drew with Everton. They're now 7 points away from the relegation zone. They'll be pretty happy with that, but again, a couple more wins needed to just rubber stamp their safety. I think they're certainly not out of danger yet, but as we say, Fulham's poor form has come at a bad time for them, but a good time for the teams above them. And Brighton, they can just keep on picking up draws here and there. They'll be confident of having enough to survive this season. I don't see them picking up a point here. I can see Chelsea just edging it. Chelsea's defensive record has just slipped a little bit in recent weeks. So obviously, the 5-2 anomaly against West Brom stands out, but also conceding against Palace, conceding against Porto after such a long run of clean sheets. So I can see Brighton getting on the score sheet here. They create a lot of chances. All they need to do is start putting them away. But I do see Chelsea having enough to get the win here. I've just gone for 2-1 Chelsea win.
2-1, yeah. I've also gone the same 2-1 Chelsea. Like you say, it could still be a fantastic finish of the season for Chelsea, couldn't it? Champions League. I expect them maybe to fall short against City and probably Real Madrid, if I'm honest, but they could very much, prove me wrong. It's been a strange season. And, in fairness, the Porto tie was a good one for them. Obviously, they lost the second leg, and Porto were pretty good at Stamford Bridge, but I just felt like it was an easy draw for them. But they did beat Atletico Madrid in the last round. I think the circumstances surrounding the 2-legged one with Atletico helped them a lot. I think if that was, at the Wanda Metropolitano with a full stadium, I think Chelsea would have struggled in that first leg, but did really well to get through. And as you say, they're very much, they're sitting 5th at the moment. The fact they play after West Ham and Liverpool and Tottenham, in fairness, Tottenham go and beat Everton, they are still in it, even though Tottenham's form has not been particularly good. So it could all go very well. It's finely balanced, isn't it, for Chelsea? It could go really well the next few weeks. It could go poorly, say they were to lose to City, maybe draw here and then lose to West Ham. But it could go the other way. So they win the next 2, then go and beat West Ham, and everything's looking good. So I just think Brighton are a really tough team. I'm expecting a similar game to the Manchester United game at Old Trafford, when Brighton were to the lead and were really good, but then sat a little bit deeper and United were allowed back into the game. But a good point against Everton last time out. And as we say, I think they're okay this season, Brighton. Obviously not completely out of it, but I would be very surprised if they got pulled into the bottom 3 over the next 4 or 5 games. I think they'll be absolutely fine. And I think they've got a good setup and a good side and a good manager. So, I think they'll get beat here. Tight game, but 2-1 Chelsea.
They're both going for 2-1 Chelsea. And there's 2 games on Wednesday night, both involving teams in one of the FA Cup semi-finals. There's Tottenham playing their second match of this match week that we're covering here against Southampton, who are in action on Sunday against Leicester in the FA Cup semi-finals. For Southampton, you'd probably say that FA Cup is, arguably their season. I don't think it's been a particularly great season for them, certainly the second half of it, in terms of dropping down the league table. You'd like to think they're pretty safe now, 10 points away from safety, maybe 1 win away from just making sure of that. But, the prospect now of FA Cup glory, they're 2 games away potentially from it. Whoever they face in the final, should they get to the final, obviously Leicester, really tough team as well, but then they'd have to get past either Man City or Chelsea as well. So it's still a big ask to go and win the trophy. But, these occasions, FA Cup semi-final, don't come around too often for Southampton. So I think that will be their priority. Again, we're filming this obviously before they're in action against Leicester. Away to Tottenham, who, as we mentioned earlier, that game against Everton is perhaps a must-win game for their top 4 hopes. So we don't know what's going to happen in that game before we're filming this one. But it's another big game for Tottenham, isn't it? Regardless of what happens really in that Everton game.
Yeah, really, really big one, isn't it, for Tottenham, as you say? And it's almost like, excuse me, when we do the 2-1 the same week, it's not really going to change my thought process behind this. If Spurs were to lose against Everton, I wouldn't be backing a different result here. I just think Tottenham at home to Southampton, I mean, looking back at the recent fixtures between the two sides, obviously Tottenham won 5-2 against Southampton early this season. Southampton's last away win in the Premier League over Tottenham was 2016. Obviously, that would have been at White Hart Lane, wouldn't it? In 2016 White Hart Lane. But it's not been great. They met FA Cup a couple of times. Premier League last season, back in January 2020 at St Mary's, Southampton ran out 1-0 winners. But it's just Southampton's form. I mean, the second half of the season, okay, they won a couple, didn't they? And the FA Cup is just Leicester have got their problems, haven't they, at the moment? And if Leicester were Southampton, what a chance it is to go and beat them and get in the FA Cup final. And stranger things have happened in one-off games. You never know what could have happened. They beat Leicester, then they, maybe Chelsea beat City, and maybe they'll have a better chance of beating Chelsea. You just never know. And if they were to win it, to get into the final, they'd be flying ahead of this game, wouldn't they? But Tottenham, on the other hand, is still there's so many question marks, isn't there, surrounding their key players. Harry Kane, it all depends whether they can sneak into that top four, and they're very much the outsiders for me at the moment to finish in the top four. West Ham, Chelsea, Liverpool, I'd put all ahead of them in terms of chances of finishing. Everton go and win this game on Friday. Obviously, they go above Tottenham as well. So it's a difficult one to predict, isn't it? As we say, because we are doing it before the other game they have played, so it's tough. But even saying that, I do think Tottenham will run out 1-0 winners here. I think Southampton, as you say, they are pretty safe in the Premier League now, and it's all about next season and obviously the FA Cup as well. So tight game, but 1-0 Tottenham.
Yeah, I was very close to going a draw in this one, but it's just Southampton's away form really putting me off. That defeat against West Brom, 3-0 away to West Brom. And I know West Brom was sort of a team on the up a little bit after that win against Chelsea, and then going and doing that to Southampton, but still really, really disappointing. And their away form in general, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 defeats from their last 8 Premier League away games. It's just really poor for Southampton, and that just put me off. That just made me lean towards the Tottenham 2-1 win in this one. I wouldn't be too surprised if Southampton do get something out of this. When I initially looked at that, my gut feeling was probably a 1-1 draw. Southampton might be able to get something out of it, but I think as pretty much for similar reasons to the Everton game, when I also predicted 2-1, I'd say Tottenham have got those players to make the difference when it matters and to win those sorts of tight games 2-1 rather than it ending as a 1-1 draw. And as we say, Tottenham aren't in great form, and both these teams are in action before this game. So as you say, it's pretty difficult to call this one. But yeah, I think it should be a close one. But yeah, I'm just backing Tottenham to win it as well by 1 goal. Also on Wednesday night, there's Aston Villa versus Man City in the other FA Cup final, semi-final, against Chelsea on Saturday. Aston Villa come into it off the back of that late 2-1 defeat against Liverpool last time out. They've got an 11-day break between games, so they're not in FA Cup action, of course. Man City come into it before the FA Cup semi-final, having beaten Borussia Dortmund away from home in the Champions League to safely book their place through to the semi-finals. That remains probably the ultimate goal for them, but the quadruple is very much still on at the time of filming, might be off by the time they play their FA Cup game. They lost their last Premier League game, as we alluded to earlier, against Leeds. So what is it now? 11 points at the top of the table, their lead. They're not going to be caught, but they still got to get over the line, don't they, Matt?
Yeah, they have. And you say 11 points. I mean, United got a game in hand, haven't they? So go and win that. It's suddenly 8 points. Listen, I don't think the City are going to fall off at this stage of the season, but they've got bigger fish to fry, really, haven't they, at the moment than the Premier League, obviously fighting for all the trophies. And it's such a crowded end to April, isn't it? The fact they play obviously this Chelsea FA Cup this game, then Tottenham in the FA Cup final, then the first leg against PSG. What a tie that could be. A really, really good one. Two sides. I do still fancy PSG. I know City are the favourites for a lot of people, but I think PSG. I just think there's something happening this season. They've got a really good manager, haven't they? Good players, and it's a really busy. So Guardiola will have to use his squad over the next few weeks. Wouldn't be surprised to see another really chop and change side for this game after the FA Cup game, obviously depending on what happens in that one. But yeah, Villa, very interesting to say, to have a big gap at this stage of the season doesn't often happen, and had a lot of time to stew over that Liverpool result, which would have hit them hard, wouldn't it? Taking the lead, doing so well, and then they'd have thought, we'll settle for a point here, not the worst result in the world, but then to concede late on like that, it was just a really hammer blow to their chances. But they're still, as we say, that top 11 is the fact that 11th place Villa are 6 points clear of Wolves. They're quite secure now in that 11th, and they'll still put their point behind Arsenal. They're still only 4 points off Everton on the same game, so Villa could still finish top 8 if they were to have a good run between now and the end of the season. They're running they've got some tough games, but they've got some winnable ones as well. Obviously, West Brom, Everton, Palace coming up, sides that, I know West Brom are fighting, but Palace play Manchester United, who might have their eye on other things as well. So, there's something happening for Villa as well. Obviously, City, as I say, have got bigger things on their mind than the Premier League at the moment, but they still need to be a little bit careful that they don't drop a couple of points. United win a couple, and maybe there's a hint of a chance late on. But I expect City to win this game. I think they'll be in good confidence because I do expect them to beat Chelsea in the FA Cup. So 2-0 Man City.
I love your ambition, not shutting the door on the United title challenge just yet. Manchester City win for you in that one. Yeah, I've gone for 3-1 Man City win in this one. Yeah, I just see them getting the job done, really. I think there will be changes, as we know, and the pet roulette is just going to be impossible to call who's going to play in which games. We don't really know what his best first choice 11 is, so we don't really know what competitions he's going to be favouring by who he picks. You would have always had Raheem Sterling in his first choice 11, but he seems to have dropped out of the first choice 11 recently, and he's been rotated and playing in some of what you'd probably regard as slightly less important games. Phil Foden is playing all the big games now. It's going to be impossible to call what sort of team selection. But as we said a couple of times, even accounting for that Leeds defeat, which came after, I think it was 7 changes to the starting lineup, a lot of changes made to that one. And there are a few fingers pointed at that being the reason behind their defeat. But Man City's second string side, even, a large swathe of Man City's third string side are a really good team. They've just got incredible strength and depth. I think it's just going to be difficult for Aston Villa in this one. They're a team, as you say, with around mid-table, haven't got a huge amount left to fight for this season. I just see Man City coming away with the win in this one, 3-1. On Thursday night, the final match we're covering of this game week is Leicester versus West Brom. Leicester, again, are in FA Cup action on Saturday against Southampton in the semi-finals. Take on a West Brom side, back-to-back victories. They couldn't do it, could they? What is it? 8 points to safety, still a big ask, but those 2 wins, just incredible results. To score 8 goals in those 2 games away to Chelsea and then at home to Southampton, just huge performances for them, and just keeps the door open, a little tiny bit of a glimmer of hope for them to go and get something out of this, which would just be, incredible if they can pull off that great escape. Leicester, as we say, are in a battle themselves, 2 points now to 5th place Chelsea after that defeat against West Ham last time out. Back-to-back defeats in the Premier League. A lot still to fight for, as we say. 2 places definitely up for grabs. Their place among them, and it would kill them really to throw away Champions League football again, having come so close last season, thrown it away. That would just be really disappointing for them. But yeah, huge game at both ends of the table, 3rd from top versus 2nd from bottom. Again, they're going to laugh. I've gone for 3-2 again in this one, actually. I've got Leicester. They're obviously involved in a 3-2. I think they've got goals, and then West Brom seem to be scoring for fun as well at the moment, which is bizarre to see. And if they can carry on that, and as I said last week, if Allardyce can, loosen them up a little bit and just tell them to go for it, no pressure on their shoulders, they've got the players to score goals. Leicester aren't in great form at the moment, but I think they should have enough to squeeze past. Yeah, I've gone from probably rather ambitiously another 3-2 in this one to Leicester.
Yeah, no, if you get that, then that'll be fair play. But yeah, sort of similar, not high scoring, but yeah, 2-1 Leicester here. As we said earlier, Leicester so looking over their shoulder, if they were to, as you say, fall out again at this stage, it would just be, and I think they're moving forward for their confidence. It would just, Seaton's in the future is just always going to be there, isn't it? They'll be thinking, we can't get there in the end. And as we say, that there is a lot of games left to play, 7 for most teams in the league now, a lot of points to fight for, and it's a really bad game for Leicester. A few weeks ago, it'd been a good one, but as you say, West Brom flying back-to-back wins, scoring goals for fun. Their good players are in good form, and they have got good players. After January they improved, but players like Robinson, who have really turned on the star. I think Matheus Pereira had a bit of a stage where he struggled a little bit, but recently he's been excellent. Phillips has been really good. Obviously, Conor Gallagher didn't come straight back in as we expected he might do after the Chelsea game. He left him on the bench, but he had a little cameo late on, and there's options for Allardyce in this game. Obviously, if Leicester were to lose the FA Cup game and then come in off the back of this, their confidence would just be low. But as we say, it can work the other way. Then the fact they play West Brom and Palace back-to-back home games in the Premier League, win this one, then go and beat Palace in much better position than they might be now. But yeah, Vardy's struggling a touch at the moment, isn't he? Obviously, Ian Nacho has been fantastic. It's been the problems with Maddison being absent recently. breaching coronavirus protocols, a couple of other ones, things Perez and Chowdhury as well, wasn't it? They were absent, but just things they don't need at this stage of the season. Leicester, they've got enough on their plate the way they're fighting for that top four. But last one. There's a lot to happen before this game. It seems like a long time away, doesn't it? This last game, but I still think Leicester will just, whatever happens over the next few days and injuries that might crop up, etc. I just think Leicester will just have enough for West Brom to score and to give them a really good game. But yeah, 2-1 Leicester.
2-1 Leicester. Yeah, just looking at Leicester's fixtures, their next 4 in the Premier League, I think they would think is certainly winnable. West Brom, Palace, Southampton, Newcastle, but then their last 3 are Man United, Chelsea and Tottenham. So big end to the season for them. And, those next 4 games are huge for their top 4 hopes. If they continue to drop points in that, then very much all to play for going into the final stage of the season. But yeah, as we say, that's a long way away. Thank you as ever, Matt. You can check out all of these previews on sportsmole.co.uk, as well as many more across Europe and in the Championship as well. We will be back for our next podcast, our next round of predictions next week. So be sure to tune in for that. You can subscribe to this on all the usual podcast channels and on YouTube to make sure you don't miss an episode. So we look forward to seeing you again next week.